Hey, good evening, everybody. It is 8:49 Central Daylight Time on the 5th of June, 2018. I'm not planning on being out here very long, but I just wanted to share something with you all tonight. And it came from this past week's Sunday school lesson. Excuse me. Sunday school lesson for the from the international Sunday school book came from Matthew the 12th chapter, verses 1 through 14. And the thing about it is that very basically, I'll give you a quick recap of the story. Excuse me again. Quick recap of the story, that on the Sabbath day, Jesus and his disciples were walking, and as they were walking, the disciples went through a field and they plucked the heads off of some of the grain. And when they did that, the thing was that the Pharisees were there and they were watching and wanted to and asked Jesus, why were his disciples doing this work that was unlawful on the Sabbath day? And Jesus responded to them not once but twice, but saying, have you not read or have you not seen in the scriptures? And he gave two different examples. One where David went into the temple and with the priests, and they ate the showbread, and him and the people that were with him ate the showbread. And then there was the other one that where he said that the Sabbath day that the priests did stuff in the temple and they were held blameless. So then goes on a little bit further along that same vein. And so when he had departed from where they were, they went to the synagogue. And when they went to the synagogue, of course, the Pharisees had been following them. And so there was a man there with a withered hand. And so Jesus asked them then in front of everybody if it was lawful for somebody to be healed on that day. And he also contrasted that by saying that, who would have a lamb that lamb would be stuck in a ditch or whatever, who would not go and rescue that lamb. And so he then had the man hold out his hand, and of course he healed him. And verse 14, which I'm going to read, says, then the Pharisees went out and held a council against him, how they might destroy him. And the reason why I bring this up, and this has not just an application in the church, but it has an application in life, period. The thing is that we encounter people all of the time because of the fact that, and let me back up just a little bit, because of the fact that God has gifted and talented, given us gifts and talents, each in different measures and in different things. There are some people who are far more talented in sitting in front of or standing in front of people and speaking than I am. There are some people that I'm more talented in some other field or endeavor and what have you. And so the thing is that when we're talking about this thing, basically what we're talking about here is jealousy in its purest form. Because the thing is that when someone is better than me at something, one of the natural inclinations for people is to try to find something else that they're not so good at, so that we have something to talk about. We have a reason to put them down. We have a reason to murmur about them or what have you. And so the thing is that when we're doing this thing, what we end up doing is that we end up figuring out ways in which to destroy people's character, to put them down, to make them less than what they are and what have you, rather than looking at this thing the way that we ought to look at it, and that each of us has some work to do. Each of us needs some help in some area or what have you, and that we ought to be lifting each other up rather than looking to destroy each other or looking to get ahead of somebody. We're so worried, as the old Temptation song said, about keeping up with the Joneses, that we don't even bother to keep up with ourselves. We don't check our attitudes. We don't check the way that we feel about things. There's things that go on and things that we say and do that are actually painful and hurtful to other people. The other thing about it is that, and as I said before, this comes from jealousy, so to speak, because here it is that Jesus, a lesser known rabbi at this particular time, even though his fame was growing, he did not have he wasn't a Pharisee. He didn't have an office. He didn't have a title. He didn't have a role or whatever. He was basically an itinerant preacher, and he was going around and he was doing all of these marvelous and magnificent works. And here these Pharisees are, who are keeping the law, who were ritually trying to prove to everybody how right they were. And yet here this quote unquote supposedly unlearned itinerant preacher is doing all of these spirit-filled things. And so there is a real sense of jealousy because of the fact that the things that he is doing is superseding all of the rules that they put together for themselves. So the thing is that when we're talking about the people that we come into contact with, just understand that there are going to be some people that are talented in areas that you're not talented in. There are going to be some people that know some things that you don't know. Rather than trying to tear them down, rather than trying to lift yourself up or make yourself look better than what you are, why not take the opportunity to learn and to grow rather than trying to destroy and hurt and maim people? Just doesn't make any sense at all. But the truth of it is that this is the world in some ways that we're living in now, where people are actually, where it's so much easier for me to make myself look better by tearing you down than it does for me to do the things that I need to do to lift myself up. And everybody seems to have a built-in excuse, or we're looking and citing these rules or what have you, and looking at the rules as they are written rather than what is intended by them. And basically that story from Sunday school does just that. They're so ritualistic and so bound up by the rules and quote unquote the so-called pecking order that all they were doing was looking to find fault. And when Jesus did some things that they couldn't find any fault in, then because of that, they sought to destroy him. I just wanted to leave you with that this evening. May God bless and keep you, and we'll talk to you later.